Here we go, you guys. All right, awesome. We are recording. Welcome, beauties. I'm so glad that you are joining me today. Yay. So I'm super excited. I've decided, so for those of you who have been following me for a while, I have been going on Facebook Live for the last 2 months, I guess, every Wednesday to do my sacred business coaching, where I just drop my sacred medicine, golden nuggets, things that are really helping my clients that I want to share with my larger tribe. And last week, I got the idea that I want to interview women that have impacted my life that I think are amazing and highlight their road to success for my tribe. So, we were going to be on Facebook Live, but we're here on Zoom. We're moving forward with the technology that we have at hand. And I'm really excited to introduce you to a woman who has had a lasting and profound impact on my life. Her name is Kendra Thornbury, and I want to just give you a little bit of background about who she is, and then we're going to dive into some questions for her this morning. So she has a master's degree in applied behavioral science. She is a humanitarian and what I would call a true servant leader. She has offered her time, her talent, and her treasure to the people of Nigeria, in Guatemala, and she has been a supporter of the Unstoppable Foundation for many years now. She actually introduced me to that organization, and I was excited to be there with her a couple years ago at their large gala that they have every year. To me, she's a fierce stand for women's economic empowerment, the embodiment of the divine feminine, and she was my beloved coach in 2015 and 2016, where a lot happened for me and continues to. I think about her often. I refer people to her all the time. And so thank you so much, Kendra, for being with me this morning. I'm so excited to welcome you.
Oh, thanks for having me, and thanks for that introduction. It's a blessing to see the reflection of myself through you. So yay.
Great, wonderful. Well, I'm wanting to sort of go back a few years to start here to tune in to how it was that you began your life as a coach. Like, what was I do work with a lot of coaches, and I know there's a lot of coaches watching us this morning, and I'm just curious, when did it all start for you? What was the turning point where you're like, I'm going to do this?
Yes. Well, I come from a social service background, and when I was in college, I volunteered and worked with people with developmental disabilities, and that developed into part of my career, which is that I was an advocate and taught people with disabilities, their providers, their families, and legislators self-determination skills and issues related to including this important part of our population in our communities. And I pursued going to graduate school after. I'm constantly a person who hungers for, more growth, more development, and so I got my master's, and really it was that time that I started feeling a bit like the parameters of what I had created for my career weren't large enough for me. I guess that's a way to put it. And, I've been, to one degree or another, I feel like I'm obsessed with living a good life and contributing in a way that feels like it fulfills my purpose and gives to others in the biggest way possible. So I got my degree, my master's, and then I would say I was a hobby businesswoman. You know what I mean? Like, I was researching, I was studying, I was, doing all the groundwork, I thought. And, I say that with a bit of, humor in my voice, because I think probably there are others who can relate with that phase of like always preparing.
Right.
And it was really the turning point for me, Stephanie, was going to Nigeria. And, I felt the call to do some international work, and I went with a good friend of mine who, yes. Tana, who works in my company as my retreat producer and queen of everything great. I had a wake-up call there, and it was so humbling, and it really turned me upside down to experience on the ground of Africa the poverty, the corruption that is going on there. I mean, the region I was in the Niger Delta is the 5th richest region of oil in the whole world, and at that time and still, there really aren't any kind of international laws or rules that the oil companies and the government are abiding by. So I won't go all into that, but it definitely shook me up. And I returned to America thinking, you know what, Kendra, get over yourself. My desire to, make sure I was polished and, well, what if I make mistakes? And, what are people going to think of me? And, those voices still visit me sometimes in growing my business, but I was plugged into a greater why. Mm-hmm. And I think that's part of what we all need is something that moves us, something that we're so passionate about, something that compels us, as this did for me, to move beyond my own shortcomings, my own insecurities, and get into action, right? Yep. And so then I just knew as I meditated and prayed, I was like, okay, how can I have the greatest impact in the shortest amount of time to help create a planet that is more respectful to the earth, to the women, to our families, to our bodies. I mean, we could go on and on, right? I know your passion is health and as a midwife and as an educator and what came to me is coach the women, the healers, the coaches, the leaders, the visionaries, the messengers, the authors, the speakers, those of us who are midwiving and pioneering a new paradigm. And so there you go. I jumped into it, and I did not know anything about business, Stephanie. I mean, I am a humanitarian. I'm a social change agent, and sales and marketing and copywriting. I was like, ugh, and I didn't want to play the game. I didn't want to be another one of those marketers or salespersons, but I knew in my heart there's another mode, another model that we can do business, which is what we're doing. So that was my big turning point. Yeah.
Wow, great. I love hearing all this backstory. So at what point did you sort of tune in or hone in to focusing on wealth?
Yeah. Well, there were being there, excuse me, I had several things I wanted to say at once. Being there definitely underscored a need for a new consciousness around poverty and wealth. I mean, it was evident to me on a whole new level that we have people on this planet who are still starving, who do not have clean water, who are experiencing, as you know, the symptoms of what I would say a lack and fear-based set of institutions and policies and way of running, if you can even call it leadership. And so I was like, gosh, I came back to America, and one of the things I was so struck by is how rich I felt like their hearts and their souls were. And one of the first things when people would say, well, how was it? How was your journey, your trip to Africa? And I thought, one of the first things that came to me was like, if we could take the richness of the soul of some of the people in this world and marry it with the poverty of the consciousness of people who are striving to make money and to get more and to acquire more, that would be the perfect union. And because America, for me, in a lot of ways, even though we can perceive that we have the trappings of success, there are people who are 6-7 figures who I would say are poor. And so that became really evident for me. And then, of course, when I started my business, the first couple of years, I was totally scraping by. I was maxed out on my credit cards. I was continuing to go into a lot of debt. And I could see that as a trend, that there were a lot of talented women who didn't know how to bring their offers into the world in a way that was prosperous. And so for me, it was like, we need to do something about this. And the other part, Stephanie, is that there is not any area of our lives that money doesn't touch.
Yeah.
I'm one of these people initially who's like, oh, I'm too spiritual for money. Like that's that system. And I was like, it isn't the money. It's the consciousness behind the money. And we don't have a resource or a supply problem in this world. We have a distribution problem. And so it was clear to me that I wanted to grow my wealth, which, for me is an inside out equation, and then help and equip women to do the same so that we can create a distribution of wealth on this planet that really looks out for the best interests of everyone involved.
Yeah, God. Amen, sister. Woo! Yeah. Well, I was pretty disconnected from that word wealth. In fact, for those of you who are watching us, I couldn't even post about the fact that I was going to Kendra's Wealthy Goddess Live event 3 years ago. I was raised, and this is fascinating. You're going to appreciate this, Kendra. So I was raised in a very wealthy neighborhood, West Vancouver, British Columbia. The people in my community and my mom's friends were wealthy. And we didn't talk, nobody talked about it. Like, you just didn't talk about it, right? And so you either had it or you didn't have it, and, you just didn't talk about it. But I got my big sort of aha moment as a young girl when my mom took me to Mexico for a vacation, and I was absolutely jaw-dropped by the poverty that I saw. And that was when I realized that I came from a life of privilege. And so, but, I'd come a long way before Wealthy Goddess Live. But it wasn't until I dropped into your field, your consciousness, throughout 2015 and 2016, that I really took myself on, and I really got to dig underneath about what was limiting me, because I'd had a lot of business training, as you know, and I hadn't hit six figures. But, I doubled my prices with you, and I hit six figures with you. So whatever you're doing is working. And all you have to do is go to Kendra's, website and see all of her testimonials. She's helping women every single day, as part of her coaching practice, with all the free stuff that she gives away. And just, being on her email list is a good thing. I learned so much from you, from osmosis, Kendra, just from watching you, how you interact with the world, and just the strength and the power that you carry. And I know, I don't know, do you think you were born with that, or have you cultivated? You've done a lot of work, right? And you're a real stand, as a wealth coach. You have this beautiful way of weaving women's empowerment and women's spirituality into your coaching. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for sharing more about your journey too. And I want to echo your sentiment about, what came up for you for wealth. I have been there and go through that too. There is such bullshit, is that all right to say here? Around even the words, the charge that comes with wealth. Rich, abundant, money. Just notice even what happens in your body. I am rich, I am wealthy, I am making a lot of money. Saying those kinds of things to me, I just used to, turn me off, because they did feel very contrary to my core values. They didn't feel integritous to the nature of who I am. However, what I've learned, what I've discovered, what I teach is that, in fact, those are very congruous with the values of those of us who care about the planet. In part, you asked about women's empowerment and women's spirituality. As I look back on my path, the last 20 plus years, it makes more sense to me now than it did in my 20s and in my 30s. And, now I'm 47, and I've gone through quite another awakening in the last year and a half plus. At any rate, when we don't have the equipment, the power within us to package, if you will, what our medicine and what our gifts are, and exchange that with those people who need our medicine, who need our solutions, then on some level we are still broke. So we can be righteous about, oh yeah, I don't need that. 6 figures or whatever isn't my world. But really, are you able to have the impact? Are you as free as you can be to have options, to have choices, and to really deliver your goods, if you will, to the extent that you can? And for me, the connection with the women's spirituality is that, you said, have you always been that way? I mean, when I was 25 years old, I had taken some time off of college, so I was still in getting my undergraduate degree, and I was studying women's spirituality. And there was something like, in my cellular consciousness, something in my bones that knew that there was a different path for women in particular. Mm-hmm. And there's what in the feminine mysteries that I was introduced to, there's what my mentor would call this remembering that starts happening. And that's part of what's happening, is that we're remembering who we are. We're remembering this innate wisdom that is inside our beings, and starting to tap that source as a guidance system. And so what happened for me is that I came across this women's community where I met my mentor, and my world just completely changed. I mean, I was insecure. Have I always been this way? Yes and no. I mean, I think I have a fierce aspect to my spirit. I'm a Taurus. I'm really stubborn. I'm tenacious. I'm loyal. And, once I focus on something, as my friends say, it's like a dog with a bone, right? But my childhood and the influence of my conditioning had gotten the best of me, and I did forget who I was. And I was at a loss at that time of my life, of my direction, of, how could I best utilize my gifts. And I didn't want to fit into anybody's box, which is another part of why I'm passionate about this, is that there are so many constraints to, how we're supposed to do things. And that wasn't good enough for me. So I was introduced to the women's mysteries and to how to create my life, which now I apply to finances and business, in a way that's in accordance with universal law and with nature. And so I don't know if I answered your question, because I have so much I want to talk about with you.
I know, this is not nearly long enough. We need.
I know. We need to do. Okay.
Oh, great. Well, we both have, love Reverend Michael Beckwith from the Agape International Spiritual Center. And that I was a longtime practitioner there for many years. And one of the things that I loved about working with you was how you weaved in the science of mind teachings, the new thought, ancient wisdom teachings, into the understanding of and definition, really redefining for me about wealth and what it means to be wealthy. Because I'll be honest with you, Kendra, like none of it had any meaning to me. Like wealth accrual has no interest to me at all without the spiritual connection. Yeah. So that was so pivotal for me with you. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, I'm happy to. And really, this was the missing piece for me as well. It was the reason that I rejected money. It was the reason why I was repulsed by the idea of wealth, is that I consider myself a spirit-led person, a very, the essence of who I am, the soul of who I am really leads the way in my life and my business. So to try to achieve business success or money success without my spirituality intact, and not just intact, but really flourishing, just didn't fit for me. But, again, when I returned from Africa, I did a lot of prayerful work, and I dug deep, and I asked Source, I'm here to be a change agent. Like, where do you want me to be? How can I help the most people possible? And one of the messages I got was, heal your relationship with money. And I was like, heal my relationship with money? So that was the beginning. And I thought, I approach so many areas of my life as a sacred endeavor, but I hadn't brought the sacred to money. That was the turning point for me. Because I really don't, on some level, I really don't care about money. I mean, I don't. And it could be a whole nother conversation for us about, as being women, for me, marketing, like, oh yeah, I can help you triple your income, or I can help you, make 7 figures. Like, I really didn't like doing that at the beginning, because I thought, oh, people are going to think I'm shallow. They're going to think that I'm just, after the money. But when you infuse your relationship with money, with spirit, whatever that means to you, it's not about another dogma or, bringing a certain kind of God to the equation. It changes everything. Yeah.
I'm just reminded of an Instagram post that you had a couple days ago about all the things that people have called you in pursuit of your, what I would call your sacred work, your holy work, which is helping women move through their own money stuff, which you definitely have helped me to do. And the work continues. But there's been a lot of name calling over the years with you. And I've experienced that myself. At one point I was called money grubbing by a woman that I was working with, and then it was time for the conversation about what's next, for both of us. And this was like, oh gosh, I don't know, like 6-7 years ago. And I can remember being so impacted when she said that to me. I was really offended, first of all, because I took my work, it was sacred and holy work to me, and I did value my time and what I was offering. But to be called that, I was like, wow. So there was a real disconnect for me in terms of how she saw me, I guess I was feeling. So I'm wondering, how have you reconciled that? And, I'd love to hear your process around that a little bit.
Yeah. Well, I think at the core of it is really knowing who you are and what it is that you're here to be and do. And when we stay focused on that, it's not a matter of if people will criticize you or judge you or even call you names. It's more like, when will it happen? And so getting over the idea that, somehow you can say things in a way that's going to land with people in a way that they like you, or that you'll present your brand in a way that makes everybody happy. I mean, it's just not possible. And so for me, part of what I've done is I've grown my capacity to love and adore myself, and to know that for the people I'm here to touch, for the people I'm here to help guide and lead and transform, that's my task, and to stay focused on that. And I know that you've heard me say this, Stephanie, but one of the keys is that I ask the question, to myself, to my clients, am I here to lead, or am I here to be liked? And my charge is not to be liked. Now, is there a part of me that wants to be liked? Heck yeah.
Of course.
Of course I do. It is difficult. I'm human. We're all human. And one of my passions, as you know, is to be more transparent in my leadership style and my modeling, because, we're all humans doing the best we can, saying, here's what I've got. So, I've got a pretty fat toolbox, and I use it, for this, this case, like the name calling. And I evaluate sometimes. Is that true? Is there an part of me that's money grubbing, for instance? And because I love doing the shadow work, sometimes people are a mirror of something that I need to perhaps reconcile or come into greater right relations with. Mm-hmm. But, really it comes down to what's your focus? What am I here for? And I'm here I'm here for global change. I'm not here to tend to helping someone feel better because I made them uncomfortable.
I love that. I love that. And I just want to come back to the piece that you just mentioned a moment ago, that you're super clear that you love and adore yourself. Mm-hmm. And that when we have that, it's like people can say whatever they want about us, you know, but I know who I am and I know why I'm here and I know what my reasons are for the things that I do. Mm-hmm. So it's about being in alignment with that.
Yeah. Yeah, and that is part of how the money connects in with women in particular, Stephanie. You know, this is about economic empowerment, it's about personal empowerment and sovereignty. And, you know, I just saw a movie the other day with my mom, Battle of the Sexes, which I absolutely love. And Billie Jean King is one of my new sheroes. And I was talking with my mom about it afterwards. And, you know, she was telling me that when I was a kid, so, you know, in the 70s, you know, she told me the story about going to Sears, you know, the store.
Oh, yeah.
And trying to buy a washer and dryer for the family. And they would not give her permission to buy a washer or dryer without my dad, her husband's signature. Now, ladies, this is just the 70s, you know? So I you know, we've come so far and we still have a long way to go. And I think women entrepreneurs and our financial sovereignty is key to it. And part of that is women knowing our value. And that's part of why I see money and spirit being a perfect union, a sacred quest, if you will, because, you know, at the heart of our spiritual path is knowing our worth and knowing our self-love. And if we're struggling with money on some level, it's because we're not loving ourselves, we don't believe we're enough, and we're allowing ourselves to suffer and lack. And that's not self-love.
Yeah. Hallelujah. Amen, girl. Woo! Woo! Yeah. Wow. Good stuff. Good stuff. Well, so a couple of things here as we start to close this out here. I know you're writing a book. Mm-hmm. I'd love to hear how that's going because I personally can't wait to read it and share it with my tribe. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Oh, you know, it's a process, you know.
Yes, I do know that. I'm writing one too, as you know.
I do know. Yeah. It's going well and it's calling me out. And, yeah. You know, I'm learning and discovering, you know, just like anything else that we put purpose to, I'm seeing a way.
Yeah, people have got to go. Yeah. Oh, so glad you all could join us this morning.
This is so fun. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know in terms of a timeline yet, Stephanie, because it's so much of it's a surrender for me. But
right. I'm just curious. Do you have a way that you write? Like, do you dictate? Do you write longhand? Do you type? How do you do it? Do you have to go to a cafe to do it? Like, do you have
that's a great question. No, for sure on the cafe, because I'm an introvert and I definitely get overstimulated quickly. But you know, creating writing habits has actually been something I've been working on with my coach. I was recently, I was just in Portland about almost a month ago with my coach, going through processes of helping me be more at ease with my writing. And some of that is setting a timer, you know, doing a block of time and then letting it go. Because I have a lot of pressure that I put myself in my writing. So I'm learning how to enjoy myself again.
Beautiful. Great. And I also know that you're gathering your tribe for Wealthy Goddess Live very soon here. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, thank you. I mean, it's such a joy to gather this group of women, you know, high achieving, soul centered, you know, freedom loving women like yourself who, you know, I keep it small because it's unlike, you know, other business events out there. I do keep it very intuitive, very organic, very in the moment. And so there's a lot of transmissions and breakthroughs and really quantum leaps that occur. And for me, it's an infusion of the feminine into business and into money. And so it's in Santa Barbara, November 19th through the 21st. I only do it once a year. We've got an incredible new wave of leaders coming in. I love some of the younger women who are feeling called, and they're so clear. They don't have a lot of the baggage that they're working on clearing out. And then, of course, a lot of women, who return year after year. And, it's a great mix of some practical, pragmatic, how you set yourself up, your business model up for success for 2018 and beyond, as well as, the mystery of what occurs when we're together in that sacred sisterhood. My mentor is coming this year, which I feel really privileged to have a platform to have my elder come. And, wonderful women like Sarah Christine, who's an incredible songstress. So we use music medicine as part of, how to use the subconscious for manifestations. And then William Mick will be there again, who's helps us also with doing great breath work. And so, and I keep it small. Like I said, it's important for me, each woman, to have a very individualized, personal, deep experience. So keep about 27 women. And I think as of today, I have 2 spots open. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Okay. Wow. Beautiful. So if anyone watching this is interested, what should they do?
You can go to wealthygoddesslive.com, wealthygoddesslive.com. And the information is there. Read it, take it to heart. I'm one of those people. I'm not for everyone, and it's really important. I mean, one of the things that my mentor, one of her many tools, is in human design, and so I've learned a lot about my design and help women to understand your design so that you set up your life based in the truth of who you are. And as women, we need to learn how to make better decisions. Most people don't know how to make the discernments of what's right for them. So, that's to stay, Stephanie. I really invite each woman who does go and consider it to read my love letter, to look at the stories of the other women and really consider, is this the right next step for me? Yeah.
Well, it sure was for me a couple years ago. And I knew it was. I mean, I'm like, I'm either going to hire Kendra or I'm going to find a woman there that I'm supposed to work with.
I remember you saying that. I remember that.
I was very clear. I needed help, and you were the help that I needed. Yeah. And I'm forever grateful.
And I'm so grateful. And I'm blown away, that I get to work with women of your caliber and the caliber of women that come. I look around and I'm like, it's such a blessing. And we need to be in tribes with one another, people who champion us, people can see our wholeness, our worth, our value, and really elevate us to that next state, because it's really tempting. These are hard times, things are falling down, they're falling apart. And we're the replacement team. That's what I
Yes, we are. And I just want to highlight and underscore the importance of having a mentor when everything's crumbling. Like, I can't speak highly enough about that.
Oh my gosh. Totally. I have such a huge team. I have masterminds. I have, coaches that I've been coaching with every month for years. We have masterminds. I have my own mentors. I have my spiritual mentor. I have my business mentor. I mean, and this last year and a half, when I went through, I know we need to go, but this unexpected health crisis, for me, it underscored one of the things that I teach, which is wealth is not money. Wealth is a currency, and we infuse it with meaning. And one of the meanings that I know that wealth has is about relationship. And one of the greatest resources that we have is relationship. So leaning into mentors and sisters, and it's so important. Yeah.
Yeah. Gosh. Yeah.
And
well,
unconscious brothers. I don't know.
Absolutely. Absolutely. We are birthing the new world, the new paradigm.
Yeah.
So thanks for being my fellow midwife on the path. And can we do this again?
Yeah, let's do it again. And maybe we can do a little practice on Facebook.
We're gonna work out. We'll make Facebook Live happen again. And we'll do a little trial run. Yeah. All right, Kendra, well, you have a gorgeous day. And yeah, all the best to you. I love you so much.
Yeah, love you. Bye,
All right.
everyone.
Bye. Thanks for joining us. Bye-bye.